Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another preview Q&A show here on All for United. I am your host, Temi, aka Temi Talks United. Everyone make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? Get us to 25 likes on this stream. And if we get to 25 likes, the first 5 people to answer the question at the end of the show, get their name entered into a hat to win some great merchandise from Football Town Apparel. You feel me? So make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure to drop your questions right now. Questions about anything Manchester United related. This is always a great portion, a great addition to the preview show. You know what I'm saying? Makes it a lot more fun. Everyone, let's get in the comments real quick. I see Jamie's here. Evening, bro. Everyone, make sure to hit that like button for me real quick. I have Stu with me. I have James with me. And I have an empty square. It's like, no, I'm just kidding. With me right here. But we got 3 people on the show today. We're gonna make sure it's a great one. You know what I'm saying? That means I get to talk more. So I like that. You know what I'm saying? I get to share my viewpoints and my opinions much more. A big game against Chelsea, a big matchup, an exciting one. Looking forward to it. It's crucial for the top 4 race. We do not want to lose against them. You know what I'm saying? They've had a good run of form since their new manager came in. We're going to talk about that. But we have to make sure we get a result, at least, at worst, in this matchup. We have a few injuries in the side, you know what I'm saying, which is a little bit worrying, especially in midfield. We have Van de Beek, who's out, McTominay, Pogba, Mata, all out. So the options are limited in midfield. But I'm going to go to Stu real quick and ask you, how worried are you that we have so many injuries currently, and how big do you think, it's going to have an effect on this Chelsea game?
Yeah, well, I mean, injuries is a big issue for any squad, any football team. But to be fair to Ollie, he's been pretty consistent with his holding midfield 3 selections, so to speak. So with McTominay missing, conventional wisdom would suggest he'll play Fred and Matic. But I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball in because we obviously know that he brought on Tuanzebe against Sociedad, and he played him in central midfield. And I'm wondering whether or not he may feel that Tuanzebe's energy, power, box-to-box abilities may suit Fred rather than Matic, or he might suit Matic. So he's likely to play either one or the other, Fred or Matic, to me. Or he could go and do his usual stuff and just play the double pivot with Matic and Fred. I'm not so sure, but I think Tuanzebe could be a wild card there. With regards to the match itself, look, we've got to go down there and we've got to take it to Chelsea. We can't sit back and just play counter-attacking football because Tuchel's too smart for that. He'll know. I think he's already alluded to it anyway. I mean, they play 3 at the back anyway. I think they play 4 in midfield and 2 and 1, don't they? So I would imagine the team that played against Atleti, I think it will be relatively similar.
Yeah.
I don't see Chelsea making too many changes. And Ollie really hasn't got anywhere to go. Up front, it's going to have to be Martial at number 9, I would say. I'd say Rashford, and I think he'll bring James back in, depending on how James's injury is. I think he'll bring him in.
Yeah.
I think Greenwood will be on the bench. The centre-back pairing will be quite interesting for me. I think everybody identified Maguire and Lindelof as being Lindelof and Bailly as being a pretty solid partnership against Sociedad. But I would say that it's going to be Maguire and another. It is going to be Maguire and another. Shaw will come back in. AWB will play. I'd like to see Henderson play, but it's going to be De Gea. So I would say it'll be Maguire and Bailly, actually. I don't think he'll start Lindelof. I think I'll go with Bailly for a little bit of extra pace.
Sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say,
it's all right.
Interesting point about Maguire and Bailly. I thought Lindelof and Bailly looked really, really good. Henderson didn't have much to do, but I think that was due to the fact that those 2 center backs cleared a lot of danger before it had a chance to get to Henderson over the last period. Let's get into the comments real quick. get into the comments real quick. This is Jamie's team: De Gea, AWB, Maguire, Baye, Shaw, Fred, Matic, Greenwood, Fernandez, Rashford, Martial. I think that's a fair shout.
It's a
Yeah.
good shout. On midfield's just way too slow. They, Fred and Matic together.
To your point, I'm about to say, to your point, I'm gonna let James come in here. I love that point about Axel. I thought he looked a bit uncomfortable, and I'm only saying that, because our midfield two still have a responsibility to get up the pitch a little bit. And when he did get further up the pitch, it looked a little bit. He looked out of place there, if that makes sense, for lack of a better term. But it's an interesting shout because I do think he brings a level of athleticism in that midfield that, Matic just can't bring at his age. Yeah. Fred isn't of the size or capability to kind of bring that level of strength and power that you mentioned. So, James, what do you think about Axel's, chances to play in this game? And would you want to see that? You're on mute, by the way.
I think if even going forward, I thought he looked all right against Sociedad. Obviously, there's a pretty decent little midfield they've got, so to do well against them was good. But I think if he gets that positional awareness that you need for a midfielder and improves his passing a decent amount, then he could make a brilliant defensive midfielder. I think he's got the mobility to play there as well. So obviously that's something we're lacking at the minute. Obviously, you say he sort of ticks the two boxes that Fred and Matic don't, in that he's tall, so he's got the height over Fred, and he's very quick, unlike Matic. But I don't think we'll see him against Chelsea unless he's playing at centre back, which I can't see. With what Ollie's done in the league so far. But yeah, I mean, Stuart covered most of it. I think he will go back to his tried and trusted Lindelof and Maguire, as much as we don't want to see that. He will go back to De Gea. Whether he plays Martial or Greenwood up front, I don't see him deviating from Rashford and James on the wings. I think, given the fact that they're both in decent goal scoring form, it'd be pretty silly to drop them. But yeah, the way that Chelsea are going to set up, they're not going to be easy to beat at all. It'll be definitely one of the most difficult games of the season. That's probably an understatement as well. But yeah I think I just want to see some goals against a big team. That's the main thing. I think as long as we avoid a loss, I think as long as we see some goals, I'll be happy. We have too many no shows in front of goal against big six teams. I think it's time we got rid of that.
No, that's a fair shout, and I saw a stat. I don't know how true this is, and it's more in regards to Bruno, but it touches on the topic of you wanting to see goals in these bigger games. I think I saw a stat that said, in seven matches that Bruno's played against the Big Six, the traditional Big Six and Leicester, he hasn't won a game, and he has 2 goals, one of which was a penalty. Very interesting. And I don't think that's a Bruno thing. That's more highlighting the fact that we've really struggled to score goals in these bigger games, specifically in the league. I think we drew 0-0 against Liverpool. I think we had a 0-0 against City. We had a 0-0 against Chelsea. It was we lost we had a 0-0 against Arsenal, and then we lost Arsenal 1-0. So it's just been a very weird. It's almost like the opposite of last season, where we were collecting points. Against the.
Yeah, just on that point, Temi, I think those 0-0 games, Ollie was probably nervous about, which is no good for a Manchester United manager, about the backlash he would have received if he'd gone for it and we'd lost. Actually, most fans would be quite happy if we'd gone for it. At least you've got to try and win every game of football. Every time you take that pitch, you've got to try and win. And unfortunately, against City, and to be fair, Guardiola did the same. He was City were on a bad run of form at the time, and both of us were trying not to lose that game. It was the same with Chelsea. But Sunday's game, we cannot afford to play that game. We cannot afford to sit back, and we cannot afford to not take chances. I mean, they don't score Chelsea at the minute. I think Giroud is he their leading scorer with about 12, something like that. I think Werner's chipped in with 10, something along those lines, across all competitions. And I think then it's Jorginho with 5 or something ridiculous like that. So they don't score a lot of goals, but they defend really, really well. Yeah. What Tuchel's done is shored them up completely. He's got rid of Zuma. He's brought Christensen back in. If you remember a couple of years ago, Christensen was touted as one of the best centre halves in in the Premier League at that particular time. He's brought Alonso back in because he offers a little bit more at left wing back. The good thing about Alonso is he can't defend. You know, he's good going forward, but he's a bit like Trent Alexander-Arnold. He cannot defend. So if we can keep Werner quiet, depending on who he plays up top, you know, if he plays Giroud's always dangerous, certainly in the air and crosses. So we're going to have to be on a mettle with that. But we've got to get at Chelsea. We just can't sit back and play counter-attacking football. We've got to go for it. And I hope that we do.
To your point, yeah, Chelsea not conceding, but not really scoring much either. Could be a 0-0. Both sides would probably take a point right now. That's a great call out. I was just going to say that, Stuart. I don't
think we will. I don't think we can afford a point.
To your point, I think in the bigger picture, I think we can. Getting a point against Chelsea, you know, with 10, 15 plus games left, I think you take that. But to your point, I think both managers, to Stuart's point as well, I think both managers take that. Let me get in the comments real quick. Everyone, make sure to hit the like button. I want to get to 25 likes on this stream so I can ask my question at the end of the show. And, you know, whoever answers the question correctly gets a chance to win some cool merchandise from Football Time Apparel. Let's get in the comments real quick. Axel is perfect in midfield at the moment, hoping Bruno doesn't get injured. I agree with that. I personally think he'll play Maguire and Lindelof, might go forward midfield. Interesting call. Let's keep going. Whoever plays with Baye looks good. That's also a fair call. To me, back to the Tuanzebe point, to me playing, John Kermode says, to me playing Tuanzebe in the pivot would be a big call. I wouldn't rule it out, but with stakes on this game, you can't really play a makeshift player in that position. Another interesting call. Ugly Bear asked, would you say we have a midfield injury crisis? I read today Paul could be out for longer. I think we do. I really do. If you think about the amount of injuries we have in our side right now, no Pogba, no Van de Beek. Obviously, he doesn't play too much, but McTominay and Pogba specifically are two first-team players. You know what I'm saying? If they're healthy, they're normally going to be in that starting 11. I think it's, you know, Fred and Matic, good players, but you know, you want some creativity in that midfield for sure. Let's see. Let's get in the comments again. Van de Beek could be back. I hope you're right. Ollie will play through at the back. I don't think so. So I'm going to go to James right now to that point about formations. I think he's going to stick with his traditional 4-2-3-1. Probably not going to vary from that. We've already talked about the center backs. I think we've got a bit of discrepancy. I think Stu thinks he might put Baye in this game. James, you think that it's going to be the traditional Maguire and Lindelof pairing. Going forward in that front line, I mean, do you think there's going to be a potential for the likes of a Dan James to get a start? You know, I think he played the last Chelsea game, didn't he? In that 0-0 draw. That was one of his last starts in the Premier League, if I remember correctly. But do you think we could see a shakeup in the front line?
I'd like to see Dan James played, like we touched on earlier. Alonso's not the quickest, and I think if there's anyone on this team that can exploit it, it'll be Dan James. So yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't start, especially given the options we have. I don't really think it's a game for Greenwood out on that right. I think if you're going to put someone up against Alonso, you go with someone a little bit quicker than Greenwood is. But back to that three at the back point, I think if you're playing Fred and Matic in front of them, three at the back is a real statement of intent that you don't want to attack. You want to sit in and grind out a result, which I don't think Ollie will do. I think that's just showing your cards a little bit too early, if anything. While it's served us well in the past, I just don't think we have that sort of mobility in midfield to launch any sort of counter from that. You know, because that's the midfield are a big part of all the counter attacks we produce. So I think a back three would keep us a clean sheet, but I don't think it'd win us a game by any means. So I'd probably still want to see him still go for a back four. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with that. We haven't seen the back three in such a long time. I think the last time we saw the back three was against Leipzig, and that was one of our ultimate bottle jobs of the season. I think Ollie learned his lesson. He's going to stick with his back four. Jacob says I would 100% play VDB ahead of Fred, more progressive, more thoughtful and patient. Interesting. I want to talk about Chelsea, though. I want to focus a little bit more on Chelsea right now. Get more into specifics about what they've done. Since Tuchel has come in, I mean, you have to call a spade a spade. Yes, they may be less attractive to watch, but he has them getting results. Obviously, when a new manager comes in, you get the new manager bounce. But I think Tuchel is kind of giving them more of that stability, like Stu mentioned. And it's going to be a tough outfit. I really think this is going to be a tough game for us. Stu, what do you think about Chelsea? What worries you, in that side specifically, and what challenges do you think tactically Ollie's going to have to come against?
Well, he hasn't lost, has he, Tuchel, since he's come in. As I say, what he's added is a solidity. They're very, very solid. And it's proven that you can get at their keeper, any of their keepers, to be honest, in the past. But at this point in time, it's getting at their keeper, which seems to be the trouble. I think only Southampton and Sheffield United have scored against them in the last 4 or 5 games. So they are keeping clean sheets. I think they'll be quite attacking and quite progressive. I think they'll be on the front foot against us because I saw something the other day, actually, and I think it was mentioned as well last night that Tuchel likes to play Van Gaal ball, whatever Van Gaal ball is. They do a lot of passing and lack penetration. But when you defend as well as they are defending right now, Manchester City are exactly the same. If you get a goal, they're very difficult to score against. So we've got to make sure we don't concede. I'd like to see us get the first goal, because if we do get the first goal, then the game itself will be quite open. With regards to the back three, no chance. I just no chance. I just can't see it. It would be an absolute fool's errand if he goes as a back three. He'll go with his back four. I don't think. I mean, yeah, there's a problem in midfield. Whether or not we've got a midfield crisis, I don't think any club has a crisis, because you have a squad of players. You have a squad of 25 players. So, step up. Whoever gets in that team tomorrow, Sunday, step up. The reason I didn't say about DVB starting is, A, we know that he very rarely starts, and B, if he is injured, I don't think Ollie will risk him from the start anyway if he's got a muscle injury. Cavani is going to be one hell of a miss for us. He really is, because I think Cavani could upset their back three. And this is the problem with Martial through the middle. He won't upset them. He won't make them think, whereas Cavani would. So I think Chelsea are gonna be a tough outfit, a tough opponent. Look, it's going to be very, very close. I think a goal will win it either side.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest, I can't see it being a high scoring affair.
Same. I think, and to your point about that, Cavani definitely will be missed in a game like this. Love my guy Tony, but against the back three, we already struggle enough to, make the defenders work when it's a back four, and that's no disrespect to Tony. It's just he's a different kind of striker. He likes to come short. He can hold the ball. He can hold up the ball really well, but his movement in and around the box isn't the best. So it's gonna be difficult, and I think that Tuchel will be more than happy to pass the ball around. If Ollie's gonna sit in, he's gonna be happy to be patient. Take his time, not take too many risks, and just wait for that crucial moment and hope the likes of a Giroud or a Timo Werner can come in with the goods and get that crucial.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you're spot on about Martial, by the way, and that's the problem with the back three, because the central defender at the back three is the one that positions everybody. He's the one that commands the box. He's the one that is talking the loudest about pushing forward and pushing behind. If Cavani gets on him, or if Martial gets on him, he disrupts his flow, and he disrupts what's going on in and around him. And that's where we need whoever plays number 9 to really push on their central defender. So whoever that will be, I don't know.
Right. Everyone, make sure to drop some questions for the Q&A section. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do the Q&A section in a few minutes here, probably like 10, 15 minutes. Everyone drop your questions about Manchester United. I have a question I'm going to ask first for the panel before I answer anyone's questions in the comments today. So be on the lookout for that. You know what I'm saying? But everyone drop your questions, whatever it is, transfers. It could be about this game. It could be about a particular player and how you feel, or what if you want to get our opinions on that, just drop your questions. Make sure to let us know what's going on in the comments really quickly. Stuart said, be so good if Cavani's back even off the bench. Yeah. I want to talk about real quick how important this result is for the top 4 race. I keep on saying this on every stream, but I really thought, if you asked me a week and a half ago, are we going to make top 4? I would have been like comfortably. And that wasn't an arrogance thing. It just we looked dead on it. I mean, we really did. And now it's just, you look at the table, West Ham aren't dropping points. Chelsea are picking up points quickly. Leicester just don't seem like they want to go away. They just got out of the Europa League as well. So they're going to be completely focused on the league and getting top 4. It's not going to be easy. Liverpool are still there, even though they're battered with injuries. They're still the reigning champions, and they're going to be desperate to get top 4. James, do you think, and we already kind of touched on this, do you think a draw is sufficient in this game? How detrimental would it be to our top 4 chances if we don't get 3 points in this game?
A draw is not the end of the world. It depends what we do against other teams. I think with the run we've got coming up, we've got harder teams to play than Chelsea. So obviously, if you're gonna pick one where you're thinking this is more of a must-win than the other, then this is maybe one of them. I think if you want to, because we're definitely going to sit back and just try and cling on against City. We're nowhere near their level. It'd be something very wise to do. So I think if you look basing it on that, I think you've got to go for the win here more, because 3 points is a more realistic possibility. But like I said, it's a point here won't be the end of the world as long as we can fix this pattern of dropping points to lower teams. I think if we can get 3 points out of as many winnable games as possible, then I think top 4 should be pretty much secured. But that's the problem we're having. We've started to get back into that trend of just not beating the teams that we should beat, and I think that's going to be the big problem. So if we get a point here, win the winnable games and secure top 4, then fair enough. But if we don't win here and we don't pick up that form against beatable teams, then it could be a really, really poor point to pick up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it all depends on the ebb and flow of the game. Honestly, like, we're gonna make our decision on if it was a good point or not after the game, because if Chelsea dominate possession and we kind of hung on and they have more chances than us and they dominated possession and we get a point, we're thinking, okay, we'll just take that and run with it. If we were the aggressor and we somehow drop points or we make a defensive, a sloppy defensive error, we're gonna maybe feel a little bit differently about it. Every result holds its kind of different battle, if that makes sense. Let's get in the comments real quick. I'm seeing some questions drop already. What an interesting one. Just because I want to make people's heads think. Do you guys see a scenario in the relatively near future where Maguire gets sold? Wow. Okay, we'll definitely answer that question at the end of the show. What a ball drop right there, my guy. John Cremorty says, if we get past AC Milan, do you think we'll win Europa League? Another great question. We'll talk about that as well. I'm going to ask a question to the panel as well. You know what I'm saying? Everyone drop more questions. I want at least 5 questions. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you get in the comments with us real quick. All the people, Stuart, drop a question for me. I know you usually have a good question. Jacob, drop a question for me. You know what I'm saying? And the panel, Ugly Bear, you had a great time. The last stream I was on, man, you had some great comments. So drop a question for me as well. You know what I'm saying? Everyone, wow, another Hollander, Sancho, and why? I think we did that on the last. I think we did that on the. No, did we do? Oh no, I think we did Holland or Mbappe. I don't know if we did Holland or Sancho. Okay, so another good question by Reese Holian right there. I hope I didn't mess up your name. I'm gonna look at the table real quick, just so I can refresh my memory. I want to see where we're at. I know we're obviously second, but Leicester's right on our tails with the same amount of points. West Ham 4 points behind, Chelsea 6 points behind. So if they win, that's only 3 points away with tons of games to go. Liverpool 9 points behind, Everton 9 points behind. So I think we'll get it. I really do. I don't think we're gonna bottle this. I can't see a scenario where we're not in the top 4, but we definitely need to pick up points and spread that gap out between the likes of Leicester and the likes of West Ham. Stu, I want to go to you real quick. I want to talk about another person who's gone under the radar for a player for our club who no one talks about anymore, it seems like, and that's Wan Basaka. I think that he's dangerously consistent to me. We don't even talk about him. He's never a conversation point. He's very steady. And I think that he gets underrated because, the grass is always greener. Everyone talks about the likes of, the young boys like Lamptey, Max Aarons, or, they talk about, oh, we don't have the likes of a Cancelo. Obviously Cancelo's better. Or we don't have, Ricardo Pereira, but I think we have a really, really good right back there. And, I think he gets so underrated because he just does his job every week and it goes under the radar. How important do you think AWB is in this game defensively? I think he's going to have an interesting outfit with Hudson. Hudson didn't play on the other side, but those wing backs are going to be bombing forward a ton. Alonso, they're going to be overlapping center backs. Azpilicueta could see some time up there. So what do you think? How important do you think he is to the side and defensively in this game?
Well, he's not a Hollywood player, is he? Some of the fullbacks who spoke about Cancelo and that they're just a bunch of posers. AWB is an old school right back where you just don't get past the guy. He's a nightmare. He would be an absolute nightmare. People say he's Spider-Man because of his spider legs. Yeah, he can he can get his legs tangled up, but he can tackle. And wingers hate tacklers. Hudson-Odoi would be absolutely delighted he's over on the right side. Right. I can see no issues with AWB and Alonso. So from a fullback's point of view, doing his job as a fullback, there's nobody better. Everybody says, and this is really plain and simply down to the modern game, that he needs to improve his crossing, he needs to improve his forward play. And he does need to improve his forward play, but his job on that pitch is to defend. And right now in the Premier League, and I'd probably say Europe, there's no better one-on-one than AWB. Is he underrated? Yes, he is underrated. And that's because your average modern-day football fan loves the flair players. That's all they see. They just see the flair players, but they don't see what Shaw does week in, week out. They don't see what AWB does week in, week out.
Right.
And the likes of Maguire, he's superb in the air. Maguire when he's on his game. Same with Bailly, Lindelof. Last night was a great example of players, fans understanding players and understanding what they can bring to the team by pairing Lindelof and Bailly. They saw what Lindelof and Bailly could do. And so for me, he is underrated, but that's probably because most fans prefer to see him in the advanced role. Do your job first. Do what you're on that pitch to do, and that is tackle. Yeah. And then everything else will come from there.
100%. I completely agree with every word you just said about him. No one gets past him. And I think one of the moments of the season that just kind of made me appreciate Wan Basaka more was that the most recent Man City-Liverpool matchup where Sterling was just absolutely running Trent Alexander-Arnold ragged, running him ragged. And then you look at all the performance. Every time Sterling has seen Wan Basaka, he's just shut him down. Versus PSG earlier in the season, he just completely shut down Mbappe, had so many great moments. I mean, to your point, I think leave defensively. I think on the ball this season, he has come such a long way. He's so much more comfortable. Obviously, it's never going to look pretty. He's kind of built different. He doesn't have the silkiness to his game. But in terms of making the right passes, his weight of passes better, making the right decisions when he's under pressure in a press, he doesn't make mistakes like he used to. I think he's a top player. And I'm excited to see, when we do get another right back as competition, I'm just excited to see him win that competition. Honestly, I really think he will. If we brought in a Max Aarons or if we brought in a Lamptey, I genuinely think he's still going to start every game, just the same way Luke Shaw is doing with Tellez. Some great questions in here. Ugly Bear says, will the best summer signing be MUFC sorting out the issues with Mino Raiola and Paul Pogba? Will MUFC regret if Paul Pogba leaves in the summer? Great question. Another question. If we finally bit the bullet and hired director of football, who would you go for? Wow, what a question. I will do my best to answer that as well. Would you ever want to see AWB at center back and get Max Aarons at right back? Just food for thought. I will answer this right now. No, he's not that good on the ball. I think he's where he's supposed to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Challenging the best wingers in world football and stopping them. I think that's where he provides the most value. Max Aarons, a right back, really, really good right back. I would love for him to come in. I would love for him to join the club because there's nothing wrong with bringing another good right back in the club. But I would never put AWB at center back personally. James, what are your thoughts on our fullbacks in general? Obviously, Stu just talked about AWB, but even Luke Shaw, I think he's been absolutely amazing this season. I think he's going to be crucial in this game, going forward as well as defensively. I think he's going to have a lot of work to do because there's going to be tons of overloads with the three in the back formation. There's going to be a lot of fires to put out, and a lot of discipline. How important do you think those fullbacks, are going to be against Chelsea?
I think that they're becoming increasingly important to us as a team generally anyway. I think the improvement that Wan Basaka has made this season, especially going forward, has been completely unnoticed. I think he's becoming such a massive part of our attacks now. You see last season, and even the start of this season, all of our attacks would be down the left. But now we're sort of spreading it out. We're able to switch it to the right because you've got that option of Wan Basaka and you can spread that defence more. So, he's becoming a brilliant player going forward. Obviously, he won't get the recognition he deserves because he looks a bit weird when he runs. But, the things he actually does on the ball, his ability to get to the byline, whip a decent ball in, I think his deliveries are getting better as well. And we've sort of taken a leaf out of Liverpool's book in a sense, in that our left back and right back are becoming very important to the way we want to play going forward. The Luke Shaw overlapping and underlapping past Rashford is becoming such a important aspect in our attack, and we're creating so many chances from that. And that's being recognised by the stats that the two are putting up. They're both getting more than one assist in a season, which neither of them have ever done before. Wan Bissaka's even scored a goal, which at this time last season you'd have never thought Wan Bissaka would ever score a goal in his career. So
twice,
yeah, exactly. So it just speaks volumes to how much they've improved, and I just really hope that it's not a purple patch for both of them, because this form does seem to have sort of come out of nowhere, especially with Luke Shaw. So I'm really hoping this is it now. We can build on this and keep getting better rather than this just being him in a good bit of form and he drops back to sort of mediocrity afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's a great call out. I think Luke Shaw, I think he's finally gotten that, for lack of a better term, kick up the ass that he needed. I personally didn't think he was that as bad as a lot of people thought he was last season, if that makes sense. I think he was getting a bit too much stick, you know what I'm saying? And then in hindsight, he really wasn't that bad, and now he's kind of come on. And like you said, it feels like a purple patch, but this is a long purple patch. You know what I'm saying? A really long purple patch. So long may it continue. You know what I'm saying? This is an interesting question. I'm gonna go ahead and answer. We're gonna go ahead and give it to the panel right now because it's regarding this game. The fourth official says, Q&A. Do you think our counterattacking football will be able to beat Chelsea's 3-5-2, knowing they will stack the midfield? That's a great question. I don't think this is going to be I don't want to say this is not going to be a game for count. It's going to be a very methodical game. I think both teams, whenever they do get possession, are going to let the other team have possession, if that makes sense. So I don't think that Chelsea's going to ever leave in too much space and behind. They're not going to put too many men forward and risk that. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Ollie. I don't think he's going to go gung ho like we would like him to. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to be pretty. I think Ollie's a pragmatic manager in general. That's just my personal opinion. I think he errs on the side of caution. That's just his nature as a manager. So no, I don't think this is going to be a traditional, counter-attacking game, for lack of a better term. I think this is going to be a lot of you have it, I have it, and we'll see which one of us can break down the relatively low blocks we're going to put in front of each other. Stu, what do you think about that?
To be honest, I think you've answered it correctly, perfectly. I'm with you. I think that when we're on the ball, Chelsea let us have it, and vice versa. The only way that I can see us getting around is if we are defending a corner and we're rapid up the pitch, or something along those lines, that we're deep and then we're rapid up the pitch. But the way that they play, they'll play with a holding midfielder anyway. So you're going to be up against 4 or 5 players when you are streaming forward. So if I was Ollie, I'd be saying to the lads, take plenty of shots from outside the box. I think whoever scores, it'll be an outside the box goal or a header. I can't see too many players getting in behind the defences and getting in one-on-one with the keeper. So I think it may even be a free kick. But I can't see any penalties in this one. Because I know Werner will try and attack the space. So will Hudson-Odoi. We know that Alonso won't attack the space. He'll cross from deep. So we know that, but Hudson-Odoi will, because he's quite a tricky player. And then you've got there Jorginho, who's a pretty decent box-to-box player in there. Depends if he starts Kante, actually. If he starts Kante, that'll be quite interesting, because that'll let Jorginho off the leash. I doubt he'll play Havertz. He may do, but I can't see it. One of their danger players is going to be Mason Mount if he starts. I don't think he started, did he, against Atleti in midweek?
No, he did. I think he did. Right?
Did he start? Did it? I can't remember.
I think he did.
But either way, I think he's probably their most informed player is Mason Mount. But I can see we're going to need Bruno from outside the box, to be honest.
Yeah.
But if we do get them, James and Rashford have got to attack that 18-yard box.
Yeah.
They've just got to attack it this time. Get in, get the ball wide and cut in, pivot in, and try and get to the edge of the box as quickly as possible. But Temi, you said it perfectly, old friend. So, and I agree with everything you said, mate. Everything.
James, do you agree with everything I just said?
In terms of the counter-attacking system, it's definitely what we will go with. Whether it'll work or not, it's a different story. We're going to need to be so clinical in front of goal, because chances are going to be few and far between. Especially with the midfield we have, we're not going to be keeping any sort of possession. We're not going to be sustaining attacks, this midfield going forward isn't good enough. I think we will have 4 players on the pitch that are competent at attacking, and if you don't include the fullbacks, and you can't sustain attacks with 4 players, so we will just rely on the counter. But you saw against Arsenal, that was probably where the counter attack has provided the most chances for us, and we missed a lot of chances. So we are going to have to be much more clinical than we have been recently, and I think some of these counter attacks are going to have to be spot on, because Chelsea defensively, yes, they are not the quickest as a back line, but defensively and the general defensive ability just equals that, and just cancels it out. They're such a solid unit now, especially with 3 at the back. So a win is definitely not out of the question, but we are going to have to be clinical, and we are going to have to be very savvy with the way that we create our chances.
Great call out. Great call out. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk score predictions real quick. I want to save the last 20 minutes for Q&A. And I already see some really, really great questions in the comments. And then we're gonna ask how many likes are we on before I even say that. How many likes are we on? If we're at 25, I'm gonna ask the question. If we are not at 20, I'm gonna be a dictator this time. I want to get that 25 likes on this stream, or we're just gonna have to wait till the next preview Q&A show. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be a dictator this time. I'm gonna really do it. So everyone, make sure to hit the like button. You know what I'm saying? Hit the subscribe button as well while you're there. The closer we get to 2.5K subscribers, the sooner one of you is going to get some really great merchandise. So make sure to let your friends know about All for United. If you have tons of Manchester United fans, you want some just objective opinions, not all this, everyone's entitled to be passionate. And like, I'm never going to judge passion, but we're analyzing it. You know what I'm saying? We're giving you real analysis here. So make sure to follow the wave. You know what I'm saying? We're on 14 likes. Okay, so 11 more likes. 11 more likes. We have 20 minutes to get to 11 likes. That shouldn't be too hard. That shouldn't be too hard. So 11 likes in about 20-25 minutes. Real quick, Stu, I want to get your score prediction for this game and first goal scorer.
It's a real difficult one. It really is. I think we might just nick it 1-0. And I'm going to go for Rashford.
Okay. 1-0. Rashford goal. I like that. James, what are you feeling?
If I'm being honest, I can't see anything other than a 0-0. But I'll be optimistic just for the sake of the video. So I'll go 1-0 with gotta go Bruno scoring the goal. Okay.
I respect that. I'm gonna be kind of on your wavelength. I'm gonna go 1-1. I really think this is gonna be a draw. I don't see us winning this game. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. It's like if I don't think we're gonna win a game, I'm not gonna say so. So I'm gonna go with a draw. I feel like a 1-1 draw, and I am going to go for a Bruno Fernandes goal. This just screams set piece,
Yeah, it does.
knockout, drag out type of game. So, and I think Stuart agrees with me a 1-1. Fred agrees with me a 0-0. 2-1 last minute goal from Greenwood. Oh, what a moment that would be for his career. 3-1 Anthony Martial goal. If there's 4 goals in that game,
no chance.
Man, that would be something. But that's the end of the preview portion of the segment. Now we get to the fun stuff. You know what I'm saying? We get to the Q&A portion. My favorite part of the show. You know what I'm saying? So many great questions coming in already. Everyone, make sure to drop some more questions for the team here, so we can answer all of your Manchester United related questions. I'm going to start and ask a question for the team. You know what I'm saying? Today is our manager's birthday. You know what I'm saying? Ollie turns 48 today, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. What a player. Let's just start there. What a player. I know I'm pretty I was kind of too young to watch him live, if for lack of a better term, when he was in his prime, but I've watched a ton. I've gone back, watched a ton of games. Excellent player. I'm just going to say that right out of the gate. When people say he's not a club legend, I'm just like, get the hate out of your heart. I know you may not like him as a manager, you know what I'm saying, but as a player, oh my goodness, could play both striker positions, could play out wide, wonderful first touch, one of the most clinical finishers the club has ever seen. That's not an exaggeration. I mean, what a player. So I wanted to ask the team here, you know what I'm saying, what is your favorite Ole Gunnar Solskjaer moment? It doesn't have to be a particular goal. It could be a game, anything. And I'm going to start with Stu. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but that was the point of this anyway. You know what I'm saying? So in honor of Ollie's 48th birthday, what is your favorite Ole Gunnar Solskjaer moment?
Yeah, I mean, he is an absolute club legend. I mean, I've seen him play umpteen times, so I've been quite lucky. Back in the 70s and 80s, Liverpool had a similar player called David Fairclough. He was a ginger, skinny little rake, but he used to come on. He used to pretty much score every time. He was the super sub. Standout moment for me, I'm not going to go with the Champions League treble winning season of '99, which probably most people will go for. I'm going to go for Ollie came on against Nottingham Forest in the second half, and we won that game. I think it was 8-1, and he scored 4. It was an amazing display of striking instinct, and so that's the one for me. Brilliant. If you haven't seen it, Temi.
Oh, what? I've seen it about.
Yeah,
I've seen it about 15 times.
It was absolutely clinical.
Right. So I have MUTV, right, which I've told myself so many times. Like after every failed transfer window, I always tell myself I'm cutting off my MUTV subscription to protest against the Glazers, and I never do it. Kind of my sad. I watch MUTV like every day I go back, watch old games. Some people watch movies, some people love TV shows. I just watch reruns on MUTV.
It's brilliant. It was a brilliant game. That was brilliant game.
So I've seen that game quite a few times. I can't lie. And Ollie was just
he's phenomenal that day.
Phenomenal. So James, I'm gonna go to you. I know you're a pretty young guy as well, so I know you didn't watch Ollie live, but what is your favorite moment that you've gone back and seen? What's your favorite moment from Ollie's time as a player?
It'd be sort of unfair for me to give a favorite because I didn't really watch him, but I think if I had to choose one, you sort of avoid the obvious, don't you? The treble winning goal. So I'll go with the Liverpool goal on the way to winning it. I think as the context of the goal is so important as well. The bitter rivalry with Liverpool, the last minute of the cup, etc., etc. It was just topped off. What I've heard was a pretty poor all-round performance, really. So to slog out a win, which it would eventually go on to win us what we won, I think that was so important, and even better, it gave us bragging rights for however long over Liverpool. So can't complain with that.
100%. I was literally going to say the same thing.
It's good.
If you haven't watched that game, James, it's on YouTube completely, the whole game. I literally watched it this past week. I don't know why it just popped up on my YouTube, and I was like, I'm rewatching this game. And yes, that moment, like if you watch the game, we're kind of under the cosh for a good amount of it. Michael Owen scores a really good goal. You got to give it to him. And then it feels over. It really it's so good. Like it's weird that I feel like I'm watching it live when I watch it, but the game, like I know what's gonna happen, but it still feels hopeless in the moment. And Dwight scores a goal. Dwight York scores a goal. Knicks won, and all of it. I mean, Ollie it just feels like out of nowhere. Stam plays a long ball through. I think Scholes gets a touch on it. Ollie just rips it, and then the celebration afterwards is just like it's just like chilling. It's so chilling. Ollie puts his hand on the badge, pulls his shirt. It's just like it's like movie. It's like a movie. So I mean, what a movie. Yeah, it's really movie like. Let's get in the comments real quick. Ollie Solskjaer was very deadly. Very, very underrated striker in the PL. Would cost $100 million easily in today's market. Ollie was like an assassin. Is up there with the greats, 100%. Masterclass of striking. Yes, this is in context with your talk about the 4-goal cameo and a lot of just another one before we move on to the questions. Everyone talks about Ollie being just kind of being just a super sub. Yes, he scored a lot of goals off the bench, but he scored a lot when he started as well. When he got those moments, scored tons of goals. I think his first season, he was a top goal scorer at the club. Obviously, there was injuries that season, but even then, what an achievement to come in and be a top goal scorer your first season. Had other 20-goal seasons as well. So yeah, no, Ollie was a really, really wonderful player. And hopefully, we can see that as a manager. I'm not too sold yet, but hopefully we can see that. I really do want to see that. Let's get in the questions real quick. I'm going to go all the way up because I know I saw a good one here. Will MUFC regret if Paul Pogba leaves in the summer? I'll start and I'll be quick. I'll try and be quick so we can get to more questions. I'll say short term, obviously, yes. I mean, anyone who says that we're not going to miss that level of talent in your side I think you're just being naive, for lack of a better term. But long term, Manchester United has lost great players before. We're going to lose great players in the future. And you just have to we kick on. We lost Cristiano Ronaldo. You know what I'm saying? I think we went to a couple of Champions League finals after that. So, you move. You know what I'm saying? But in the short term, 100% it's a loss. Stu, what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar on that. I think short term, yes. Long term, you just never know. You never know how players adapt at other clubs. I mean, don't forget he was with us before. We shipped him out. He went to Juventus, transformed his career at Juventus, and we brought him back. And he's been very, very hit and miss for us, as we all know. But on his current form, once he's come back from COVID, etc., he got himself fit. Yeah, I think short term we would. But long term, it's difficult to say. It's difficult. Yeah. It's a good question, but it's a difficult question to answer, really.
Fair enough. James, what do you think?
I think it goes without saying. We're seeing how much we miss him even now, aren't we? And he's still with us. So I think the other thing is, realistically, in this market, there's no adequate replacement out there that we could buy. I think no matter who you bring in, given the way we play and the impact that Pogba has on the team and on the dressing room and everything, I don't think you could fully replace him. I think you can get a player who can be moulded into a player as good as Pogba is, maybe even better, given Pogba's inconsistency. But, for the next season, if he goes, I think we will feel the effects, definitely, that ability from deep. But, long term, if we get our recruitment right long term, hopefully it won't make much of a difference. But like Stu said, like one of you said anyway, we lost Ronaldo. We didn't properly replace him, and we learned our lesson from that, hopefully. So if we can let go of a big player and bring in a player of sufficient quality, then hopefully in the long term it won't be too bad.
Yeah, no, great call outs. I think we're all kind of saying similar things, just in giving different context to it, which is what the whole point of the Q&A portion is, you know what I'm saying? But a really great question by Ugly Bear there. What a great YouTube name, by the way. Ugly Bear, I like that. Just because Hammy United says, do you guys see a scenario in the relatively near future where Maguire gets sold? What a question. It's funny. I would say no. Maguire is like a brand new car that you get off the lot, right? Honestly, like as soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates like a third in value. And that's kind of how, and that sounds awful to say, but he was never worth 80 million pounds. That's no slight on his game, anything like that. But it's going to be next to impossible to ever get a return on investment in Harry Maguire. So the club at this point, if you're the higher ups, you're never thinking I'm going to take a 50 million pound loss on a player, or 40 million pound loss on a player. That player is just going to have to play themselves into form and prove, what they are to the club. So I would say that I don't think we're ever going to see Maguire get sold. Stu, what do you think?
Oh, it's a definite no. It is Maguire and another. That's it. And that's what it will be for the next 5 to 7 years. So I'll be short and sweet on this. I love the question, Hammer, but no chance.
James, what do you think?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because he's a very, very good defender, but he's never going to be world class because his performances depend on his partner very, very clearly. But leaving United is never really going to be an option until he gets a lot older. He'll spend the peak of his career at United. I think you don't pay 80 million pound for a player, and then sell him on. I mean, if we did sell him on, we'd have to take a massive loss. There's no club in world football that would want to pay 80 million for a defender anyway. Never mind pay 80 million for Maguire. And I think realistically, what big teams that could afford him would want him? That's the other question you've got to ask. So I think that's the reason we're looking at these new centre backs for the summer, thinking how well will they work with Maguire? Because Maguire's going to be here for a long time, whether we like it or not. So we've just got to accept that and make sure the team's set up in the best possible way to make sure he gives out constant performances.
100%. Completely agree with that. And just last point on that, this is for me why I don't want us to, necessarily go young with the center back. You know what I'm saying? I desperately think if we're going to have Maguire for his prime, right, we need to buy players who are significantly better than him. We have to find a center back who is, a much better player than him, for lack of a better term. It's not going to be easy, especially when you spend 80 million pounds on one. You're thinking, how do I find a center back who's better than an 80 million pound center back? I mean, if that makes sense, but it has to get done. It really does. Or we're always going to regret Maguire signing for 80 million pounds if we don't get that partner who's better than him and can bring out the best in him. Great question. Lee Ellen, this is more of a topic about the game, but who, if anyone, deals with Giroud's aerial threat this weekend? We've seen Giroud in the past, and I think Lindelof has played in games against Giroud, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but I think I'm right. And Giroud is a fascinating person because he's a great goal scorer, but he doesn't score a lot of goals, if that makes sense. He again, for France World Cup, didn't score a ton, but he's going to get you a crucial goal. And he's always going to be, his overall 90-minute play is going to be solid. He's going to win balls in the air. He's going to link up the play. He's going to hold the ball up for, the runners in behind. So I don't necessarily think that we should be worried. Yes, we should be worried about his aerial threat, but I do think Lindelof's a really good center back, and he might get beaten for strength here and there, but generically Lindelof's going to give you a 7.5, 7 out of 10 week in, week out. So I'm not too worried. I can't lie. So I'll say if he plays Maguire Lindelof, I think we'll be okay. If he plays Maguire Bailly, I think we'll be okay. Stu, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, really. Either Maguire or Lindelof or Bailly, be comfortable with him. He is pretty good in the air, but he's not strong. He's not a strong player in the air. He's not going to outmuscle, players like that. I can't remember what the Albion's forward was. He was a new buy, wasn't he? January purchase. So I can't remember his name, but he won't do that. He's just awkward. He's a bit gangly, isn't he, Giroud? But we should be able to cope with him. The issue is going to be with De Gea in goal. If De Gea doesn't come and claim his 6-yard box, that's where we start to have issues with our centre-back pairings and certainly crosses and corners. So we need to get De Gea in there, but I can't see Giroud outmuscling Maguire or Lindelof, really, if I'm being honest. James, a good goal scorer. He is a good goal scorer.
I agree. James, what do you think about Giroud's threat and how we're going to handle that?
I think aerially, there's no one on our team that could really match him. I think Maguire would be a shout, but his ability to get off the floor lets him down because his jumping isn't probably where it should be, and that's where Giroud will attack. So I think we need to focus on stopping the deliveries into him, because I think that's probably your best bet of stopping him. But then you've also got the problem with the fact that he's very good with his feet as well. So I think we've just got to keep the ball away from Giroud. I think that's probably the best way to deal with him. We often see Bruno marked out of the game. I'm not necessarily saying put 2 players on Giroud, but just don't give him an inch and make sure the deliveries into him are either cut out or of poor delivery.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I don't want to see Giroud consistently putting his back to goal and making our center backs work, because that's when things get very dangerous, because he won't be the one to score the goal, but he'll be an integral player in that. Great question. Shay Madison asked a really fascinating question. Q&A, do you think that Ollie needs better assistant coaches? Because when it comes to defending, the messed up zonal marking is the killer for our back four, I'm assuming. This is a interesting question. I am adamant that Ollie gets a top level, coaching staff around him. Ollie's already inexperienced. I think a lot of us have an image of wanting Ollie to kind of transform into this top level manager, and maybe it's possible. But he doesn't have anyone around him he has Mike Phelan, yes. But again, that top level, someone who can help us more tactically. I think there's a lot of moments in games. We give up a lot of games because of, I think, yes, mental lapses with the players, but then, set pieces. It seems like that issue has just never gone away since Ollie's been there. I would like to see more experienced people in there. We have McKenna, we have Carrick, now we have Fletcher. Nicky Butt kind of joins in and, sits on the bench from time to time. Great players, great in the youth system. They've done a lot of good things for the youth system, but I would like to see a higher quality of a higher quality coaching setup around Ollie if we're gonna stay with him long term. Stu, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that our coaching staff are learning on the job. There's no two ways about it. The history of our club, all our managers have always had exceptional coaches alongside them. Fergie's era was Kidd, Steve McLaren, all good coaches. Muhlenstein, Kirosh, all good, seasoned coaches. But to be fair to Phelan, he is also a seasoned coach, and he's been with the club on and off for, as a coach for, it must be 20 years now. It must be, maybe even longer. But the modern day game, as everybody keeps calling it, the modern day game, requires a modern day coaching setup. And I think Mourinho is starting to suffer. And I kind of think also the older coaches, they're starting to suffer because they haven't adapted to the new style of football.
Yep.
And so I think, yes, a better coach would be ideal, but there isn't a better coach out there that understands the modern game. So I think we're kind of stuck with what we've got. Ollie trusts them, which is important.
Yeah.
Maybe as a shout, and it's too late now because he's gone into Miami. You could have brought Phil Neville back in, and he's had a lot of coaching experience. He's very experienced now. Coached in Spain, coached at international level, albeit the women's game, but it's still it's still football. He's coached at Old Trafford before, and now he's managing into Miami. So, but ultimately, sometimes having a close-knit group who all aspire, to get to the same level is as good as having an experienced coach. Because if you bring the experienced coach in, you're going to have to completely rewrite what Ollie does.
Right.
And it's no good. It's just no good. You don't have the time to do that.
Interesting. Very, very, very fair call out there by Stu. James, what do you think about that?
I'm sort of in agreement with Stu. I think that obviously there are better coaches out there right now. We don't have a particularly great coaching team by any means, but you bring in the best coach in the world, is going to do nothing because he's going to have different ideologies to everyone else on the coaching team. So you need a set of coaches that are all buying into Ollie's philosophy, which obviously starts with Ollie and how he wants to play football. Now, I think, you look at all the great managers at the current time, they've got their play style set in stone wherever they go. And I don't think Ollie has that yet, a set play style that he reverts back to every single time. And I think you learn that on the job. And realistically, he's not had many big jobs. He's had Mulder, which you can't really gain that much from the Norwegian league. So I think he is learning on the job at United here, just testing what works and what doesn't. Obviously, he tends to prefer the counter attack, but I don't think it's really set in stone yet. So once he sorts out his style of play, you then look at coaches who can help implement that style of play to the best of his ability. I don't think these coaches, obviously, they've got a big reputation within the club, but I don't think they're here for the long term per se. I think once Ole has his style set, if he's given enough time, obviously, he could, things go wrong, he could be sacked by the end of the year. But if he's still here in a couple of years' time and he's had time to figure out how he wants to play and how he wants his team playing, then he can get in coaches which will best help him implement that style. And I think we go from there. But right now, I think you stick with what you've got. Obviously, the coaches that we've got at the minute are doing very well at implementing that United mentality into the players.
Yeah.
So I think that's doesn't get spoken about highly enough either. It's a big mentality thing as well that they're implementing. So yeah, I think that's about all I've got to say.
No, that's all. I take all those points. You're bringing up some things I probably didn't think about when it comes to, the bigger mission and everyone buying into one philosophy. Very interesting point. I just think last year specifically, we saw, excuse me, how many semifinals did we get to? Was it 4 or was it 3? Excuse me. I can't remember. I'm drawing blank. Forgive me about that.
Yeah, it was 3, wasn't it?
It was 3. It was 3, and I'm just thinking in those moments would a more experienced person next to Ollie maybe have given him that little bit of information that could have got us over the line and won or something like that. That's just just something I'm thinking about. But
it's a good point, Temi. What I would say is that Ollie's probably his mandate was to stabilise the club. And the only way you're going to stabilise the club is by bringing club people back into the club, which is what he's done.
Yeah.
I remember when Giggsy took over in the interim period with Van Gaal, he brought back in club people, you know, Scholes, Bussy, Neville, etc. I think Ollie's done that. And time will tell with it anyway. Time will tell because, you know, they were excellent footballers. Because you're an excellent footballer doesn't make you an excellent coach. It just depends how quick, you know, a quick learner you are, how you can get over the line. So we shall see. Time will tell on it.
Exactly, 100%. Interesting question by Reese Holly. And if I missed a question, please forgive me. Please forgive me. I'm looking and finding, you know, just finding questions that come to my mind. Actually, from now on, guys, I'm going to ask for your help. When you do ask a question, maybe just put Q&A in front of it. That helps me to find it quicker. I'm noticing that about myself. So just put Q&A in front of your question, and then I'll be able to probably see it much, much quicker so I can glean through the comments and stuff like that. Very fascinating question. Would you rather go all out for Alaba or Koundé, and why? Obviously, okay, so great question. I like this one. Obviously, back to the center back conversation that I feel like we have every Q&A show. But it's a really good question. David Alaba, 28 years old, 28, 29 years old, has won pretty much everything you can win. Tons and tons of league titles in Germany, multiple domestic cups, multiple Champions Leagues. What a player. Koundé's a young, up-and-coming player that, you know, is high on the radar for many, many people. You know, I think a lot of United fans are on the Koundé train, for lack of a, you know, better term. But to answer the question, I would go with David Alaba 1 billion times over. Like 1 billion times. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. He is still 28, so he has tons and tons and tons of time left in those legs. You know, he can play multiple positions. You know, if we want a DM to play in the middle of the park, he can do it. Excellent DM, plays center back, plays left back, played left back a majority of his career, but he's moved into the center back position and done. You know, he won a Champions League. He started in a Champions League final at center back and was brilliant. You know what I'm saying? So that's the level of player he is. Koundé, we're still trying to figure out if he's going to be at that level. We're looking for a partner for Harry Maguire, right? And I think Koundé has, you know, kind of some similarities to Lindelof. He's a relatively small center back. He's not tall at all. I don't think he's 6 foot. I think Lindelof's bigger than him. Yes, he has the pace, but does he have the physicality that we're complaining that Lindelof doesn't have, for lack of a better term? I think Alaba's much smarter. He's won everything. He's a leader. Again, he is a leader. He would walk in there and demand nothing less than, you know, 100% from every player on that pitch. So I would go with Alaba. Stu, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do like both of them. Alaba is by far the more seasoned and more rounded player. The thing about Koundé is, you know, if you bring a raw centre half in with no Premier League experience, you make a mistake, chances are you're going to concede a goal. And you know, centre half is specialist. Certainly in the Premier League, it's specialist in any club in the world, but certainly in the Premier League, it's specialist. For me, you know, I think there are much cheaper options because we're not going to get Alaba because he's clearly going to go to Real Madrid, I would think, or Barcelona. But I think there are cheaper options closer to home, and you need somebody who's kind of been there, seen it, done it. And I would look at Connor Cody if we could get him. I know he's a Scouser and he's Liverpool nuts, and chances are he probably would spit at Manchester United because that's what Liverpool fans do. But what you've got is a player that would be, you know, he's not comparable to Maguire. He's a little bit different to him, but he's a leader. He is a true leader. And right now, we are lacking leaders all throughout the squad. You could probably count on 2 fingers of real leaders in our squad. And Koundé wouldn't offer us leadership. Alaba would.
Yeah.
Because he's, and as you quite rightly say, versatile. Koundé isn't versatile. And he is quite small, Koundé, as well, actually. And only a couple of clubs play with a conventional number 9 at the moment, so I can see where Koundé would fit in. But for me, and I'll probably get slaughtered for it, but I really would look at Cody. I really would. He's been excellent for Wolves, for the past 2-3 seasons.
That's a great call. And I'll let James touch on this, and I'll go back to that point. But great call out, Stu. James, what do you think?
There's pros and cons for both, isn't there? Obviously, I think Koundé. The argument about him being small is obviously it's valid, but we were looking at his stats the other day actually, and his actual aerial win percentage and stuff like that is in sort of the top 5% of defenders in Europe. So he's I don't think that will really be a problem as such. His jumping ability and his aggression to actually get on the end of the ball is something that works well in his favour. He's obviously got that mobility to suit Maguire, but if we're talking about right now, a short-term solution, I think Alaba probably just edges it in terms of how good he would be for this team. He's obviously got the pace to cover Maguire. He's got that, like you say, the leadership, the football knowledge, the winner's mentality. It all goes in his favour, and I think most importantly, he's left-footed as well. And there's a lot of importance around left-footed centre backs now. Obviously, it will massively improve our ability to build attacks down that left-hand side, with the fact that he's not having to bend the ball back towards our half with his right foot. So I think that is either one coming in would be absolutely massive for us, absolutely massive. But if we're talking, if we want to do well, if we want to do the best we can next season and the next few seasons, then Alaba's probably your man. But in the long term, you've got to go with Koundé, because I think he can be as good as Alaba in centre back. So yeah, either one would be brilliant, really.
No, great points. Stu, go.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. Here's the thing about stats, though. You hear it a lot. People always talk about stats on players. He's the top 5% here. It's the Premier League. You can't put stats on a player until you've had 2 or 3 seasons in the Premier League. And I'm not really, and this is the problem. When you've seen some of the world's best players come and fail in the Premier League, because it's a completely different league compared to Spain, compared to Italy, compared to Germany. So I go with the stats argument. I do. And, Koundé potentially in 3 to 4 years' time could well be a good Premier League player. But right now, currently where we are for the next 2 to 3 years, we need somebody with real experience, because it's too specialist. It's too specialist to take a chance.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point you made. I want to go back to your interesting point about Connor Cody. I like Connor Cody a lot. If you're asking me who's better between Harry Maguire and Connor Cody, I'm not even gonna go there. But I really like Connor Cody as well. Like, the issue with that, not even an issue, because he is a leader. I think he's a good center back, but he plays in a back three, and I think some of his deficiencies as a center back are kind of hidden in there. He has normally a really Willy Bally, rugged center back, right next to him. Then he has more of a ball player next to him. Normally it's Saiss or it's Dendonker. So they all kind of mask each other in a way. And that's why they're so, and Nuno is one of the most well-organized managers there is. I would be always frightened to kind of, and this is kind of what happened with Harry Maguire as well. He played in the back three for England. They got to a semifinal, and he got a lot of praise for his performances. Rightly so. He played well in the back three, but I fear picking up center backs who play in a back three consistently, and then bringing them into a more fast-paced back four, and asking them to adapt relatively quickly, if that makes sense. But
it's a good point. The thing is, with Cody, he reads the game pretty well. He's a really good reader of the game, but he's also a student of the game as well. He studies the game a lot. This is something that Darren Fletcher, by the way, will bring to us next season, not this year, but next season. He's an absolute student of the game. He's like Phil Neville.
Yeah.
Constantly studying football, constantly asking questions. So that's why I would have gone for Cody. I think it'd be a much cheaper option and a better solution right now than somebody. And I know you're a Ramos fan, I've seen Varane in the comments. We've been linked with Varane for forever. 10 years. 10 years. I think he's on a free, isn't he, this year? But I don't know. Premier League experience for where we are right now in our rebuilding phase, I think is more critical in the short term than the long.
Very fascinating points. I definitely think we will buy a center back this summer. I'm pretty confident about that. And it's going to be so interesting to see which center back gets picked. Like, I don't think there's a guarantee anyway. I don't think there's one particular favorite. that the board has currently, or maybe they do and we just don't know it yet, obviously. Or Ali, I should say, as well. But I do think we're going to get a center back, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see who that center back is. Stuart asked a good question. This is going to be the last question of the day. If we finally bit the bullet and hired a director of football, who would you go for? This might be a little bit, I don't know if it's controversial. It's not controversial, but I will go Edwin van der Sar. I've thought about this I've thought about this for a while. Everyone at United, I should say United fans always want people who, have the United DNA in them, right? And I do think that's important. But I do think where we fail sometimes is we take that and don't respect the more business side of this thing, of this football thing, right? And I think that's where we failed a ton in our transfer business. You know what I'm saying? We haven't had that director of football. Edwin knows the club. He took his time after football. He got a master's degree, worked hard, worked his way up into, understanding the front office side of football, has done brilliantly at Ajax since he's been there, sold players on for just tons and tons of money. I mean, he sold De Ligt for, what was it, 75 million pounds. He sold De Jong. He sold off Van de Beek now. I mean, Ziyech. I mean, he's done brilliant business, and that team is still flourishing. Obviously Ajax is normally, they're like the Bayern of the Netherlands, but the job, if you look at the business he's done as a director of football, plus the fact that he's a United legend and he knows the club, I can't think of a better candidate than Edwin van der Sar coming to be a director of football. Stu, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, it's a good shout, that, but I would go Gary Neville. To be brutally honest with you, he obviously knows the club inside out. He's running a club at the minute, or part owner of a club at Salford City. So he's got the experience now of buying and selling players, albeit at a lower level. And I think he would be absolutely ideal for us, Gary Neville. I think he would. Him and Ollie know each other. Obviously, Van der Sar and Ollie know each other, I know, but him and Ollie know each other. He's very got a set way of working as Gary Neville, and is developed along with the rest of the lads Salford into potentially a playoff League Two side this season. So I like Van der Sar, and I would imagine Van der Sar would be the odds-on favourite, to be honest. But I would like to see Gary Neville come in.
That's an interesting one right there. Very interesting one, James. What do you think about that? About the Stewart's question here?
I think if we're talking in an ideal world, I've got two that I'd probably say that I don't think they're realistic. I don't think they'd lead the clubs they're at now. But if you look at the way United are trying to recruit now, we're not going for the finished product anymore, are we? We're seeing a lot of young signings coming in who will develop and get better, and who knows what will happen in the future. So I think based on that, you've got to look at either Luis Campos at Lille or Ralf Rangnick at RB Leipzig, because they're two. Campos in particular was at Monaco when they had their big Champions League run and had a lot of young players that they sold for profit. He was responsible for signing Bernardo Silva and a lot of the foreign players that made that team as good as they are. And then he's doing the same at Lille now. He's obviously Lille are top of the league in France, which is no mean feat, and they've obviously brought in Renato Sanchez as probably the biggest signing that they've made, revitalised his career. So I think he's a good option to go for if you're looking for smart or savvy business. And then Rangnick on the same sort of conditions, where he RB Leipzig specialise in buying young and cheap and selling for a big profit. Now, we won't necessarily sell for a big profit. We'd use these players that had been bought and developed. So I think they're two that you've got to really look at if you want to carry on with this business mode of selling, buying young and cheap.
No, those are two great calls. Two great calls. I would not be mad at any of the people that have been mentioned. Let's get in the comments real quick. That was the last question for the day, guys. We're well over time. I'm glad I started the Q&A early.
Oh yeah.
This always flies by. But yes, Van der Sar is perfect. He has the qualities, qualifications, and the knowledge. Look at Ajax. Ugly Bear says yes. Edwin van der Sar with Wayne Rooney taking up the Bobby Charlton role. Fred says would love to see Van der Sar back at the club. Fred Woodward says Ragnick was supposedly the front runner. All interesting points. We missed the boat with Paul Mitchell. We definitely did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So, I mean, man, I think it's going to be – I personally don't see us getting a director of football. It's been like the ultimate conversation point forever since Fergie left. And it's just I feel like the club almost has an ideology that this is the way we're supposed to be run. And they don't really want to vary from it, even though it's a pretty archaic way to run a football club, honestly. But no, great questions. I don't know if we're on 25 likes. How close are we? I told you, this time, guys. If I don't see it,
I don't think we're there.
If I see it,
on 21.
We're on 21. Okay, guys. So next time, let your friends know. Because I want to get as many people in this draw as possible. I know my friends Stu and my friends Fred, are the people who ask the questions, are going to be mad at me, but I want that 25 like mark. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I didn't pre-promote the show the best way I could in that like normal, but I'll do better next time. But guys, what a great show again. We broke down the Chelsea game, got some great insight from Stu and James, and we had some great Q&A questions. As always, you guys always come with the amazing questions that keep the show running. Make sure to hit the like button. We want to get to 200 views as well before the Chelsea game, so make sure to let your friends know about it. Share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, wherever, you know what I'm saying, and let your friends know about this as well. Guys, that is it for the show today. We appreciate you, Stu. Thank you so much. James, thank you so much as always. Guys, make sure to stay tuned for all the upcoming content on All for United. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of good stuff coming. I will be working this weekend. I will be on the post-match show, so make sure to look out for me there. You know what I'm saying? Karthik is going to be back. So, yeah, very exciting stuff. You know what I'm saying? So make sure to look out for all of us. Make sure to follow all of these gentlemen right here. Follow Stu, follow James. Their Twitter handles are in their name bio right there. And guys, we will all talk to you very, very shortly. Deuces.